Hello guys, my name is Sandeep and in today's video we're gonna learn about for loops in Python. As you can see on my screen, I have a Jupyter notebook open in my browser window. So in today's video, we are gonna use a Jupyter notebook as our working IDE to run Python codes. Today's tutorial video is based on the topic loops in Python. An iteration is a very important concept which is used in Python language. Let us see how we can execute an iteration in Python. Let me first create a new module by selecting new Python 3 kernel. It will create a new Python 3 notebook with its name as an untitled. So yes, you can see it's untitled. Let me rename it with today's topic for loops. As you can see, this is a cell where we can type in our Python code which can be executed. So let us begin with our first iteration or for loops. I'll copy paste the for loop command. So now here is a for loop command in Python programming. A for loop command begins with a for block and ends with iterable string which is required to be iterated inside the for block. The for block is followed by a variable named letter and ends with the iterating string followed by an indented line. After the indentation, you can enter statement which needs to be executed on each iteration. Your iteration begins with the first letter inside the iterable variable, in this case which is a list of alphabets hello. As you can see, there are 5 elements in this list. Element number 1 is H, element number 2 is E, element number 3 is L, element number 4 is L, element number 5 is O. Hence, there would be 5 iteration and a 5 print statement which would be executed. Let us run this code. To run the code in Jupyter Notebook, you can use a Shift plus Enter or click on the Run button. Let us run the code now. On execution, you can see on first iteration it prints the first letter of the variable list, that is H, followed by E, followed by L, followed by L, followed by O, and ends with the iteration. Please remember, the for block begins with a for word and ends with the iterable variable. Moving ahead, in Python, a for block can also be applied on a string. Let me copy paste our next function. In this case, you can see a string name hello is iterated. On execution, you can see there is a same iteration happening HELLO. In this case, instead of passing a list into the for block, a string hello is passed. You can observe the output is same, even though it being a string. Python is smart enough to identify it and it iterates it with each letters inside a string. Moving ahead, you can also iterate assign the string value to a variable, and execute a for block using the same variable where the string is stored. On execution, you can see the word HELLO prints each letter of the strings. You might notice the space between the hello and world is also printed, which is a part of an iteration. Moving ahead, in this particular case, Python, when you enter when you pass in a digit number 10 inside a hyphen value, you can see Python considers it as a string even though you expect it to be iterated for 10. Python identifies it as a string because of the quote marks which is present along the 1 and 0 string. It on first iteration it prints 1 and on second iteration it prints 0. Let us consider a case where we want to pass in an integer value instead of a quote string. On execution, Python will throw an error saying int object is not iterable. You might notice that an iterable variable is necessary to be placed in the for block, or else it shows error. But Python also has a feature allows to iterate by specifying a range using an integer to define the number of iteration required by the user. This can be achieved by using a function keyword inside a for block. Let me copy paste this and let's see what is it about. Here in this case you can see inside the for block there is a keyword range which specifies the Python that the for iteration should happen considering it as a range, and the range is specified followed by number 10. In execution it says so. A for block identifies the range function, and the range function bracket of the range functions defines the extent to which the iteration should happen. In Python, iterations start with digit 0, so there are 10 iterations starting from 0 and ending at 9. You can also pass in an input list. Here you can see an input list consists of a list of elements HELLO. The input list has the stored list in it. You can pass in this variable inside the for block and identify each item using the in function and print it accordingly. Let us execute this code. In the first iteration, element number 1 H is identified and printed. Element E is identified and printed. You can also find out the index of each variable, each element inside a list or a string. This identification is done using a Python keyword enumerate. Let us type in this enumerate function. So in order to find out the index value of each element, we can use a function named enumerate inside a for block. Let us see this example. For block consists of the input list which is a list of elements HELLO. In order to identify the index value of each element, we will mention a keyword, a function name enumerate. Enumerate bracket the input list will output us the index value corresponding to each element inside the list. Let's execute and see. On execution, you can see the index value of element H is 0, which is true. Index value of E is 1. There are lot many functions inside the for block which can be executed. In the next video, we will learn about iterating elements using tuples, dictionaries, and lists. Keep watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Let me know if you need a separate video on installation of Jupyter notebooks and installation of Python in your system for practical hands-on. Thank you guys for watching. Keep supporting.